Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about the sums and the differences of cubes. So in this video we're really going to factor, essentially. We're going to factor not these terms, but these terms, okay? With a 3, the cubic degree, okay? That's the difference. And there's just two things you gotta remember and you are good. We're gonna do examples. I know I hate putting just rules right in your face, but they are so easy you won't even need them in this video. I'm just being very formal for a minute, but there are two types of cubes that you will encounter in factoring. Oh my gosh. Okay, one is called the sum of cubes, and it's when two terms, they're cubed and they are being added. So it's an addition. That's where the sum comes from. And this is the rule. This is how you factor it. All you gotta do is cube root each term, and then take that term, and I mean it's really easy. We're gonna work with it. You will not need this, I promise you. And we also have the difference of cubes, which is the same thing. Instead, you're subtracting the difference, okay? And the difference between this and this rule is that, well, difference you're subtracting and sum you are adding, just the integer, and here just these guys change. Everything stays the same, just the minus and the plus. For the sum, you might be thinking everything's positive sum, but it's just after the first term in your bigger bracket, you think the opposite of sum, which is negative, difference, negative. So I always do that. And same with the difference. That integer after your first term in the bigger bracket is the opposite of what you are doing, which is the difference, which is subtracting. The opposite of that is addition, so that's how I remember it. But you know what, forget about this. We are going to do problems easy in the beginning and then slowly build up. And you will not need them, but we will refer to them just as a reference. Okay, so our first problem is x cubed minus 8. Okay, now remember, each term here, even though this doesn't look like it's cubed, but it is, each term is cubed. Okay, notice that third power, and you're asked to factor. Okay, so on my first step, when I teach this, what I first do is think, okay, what am I doing? The sum or the difference of cubes? Which rule am I going to follow? Well, you are subtracting, right? Let's look. We are subtracting two things. That means we're doing the difference. So we are doing we are doing difference of cubes. Okay. So I'm just gonna move this over here. Okay, so what do we have to do now? Well, our rule says that we take each term and we cube root it. And I'm not going to refer anymore back there. I'm going to show you easy steps. So you take each term literally and you cube root it, sorry. So x cubed, under the cube root radical, the exponent and the root cancel each other. So you're left with x. If you don't know, but the cube root of 8 is 2. Okay, and guess what? This is your first factor. You found this part of your. Now you have to do the long brackets, okay? And that's all. Now, I'm just gonna morally teach you so you don't have to look back at your rule all the time. What you have to do here, to fill in, you take your first term in your smaller bracket, which is an x, you square it, okay? So x squared. Now remember what I said, after your first number, your term, there's either a positive or a negative. And I said look at what you are doing. If you're doing the difference of cubes, do the opposite. If you're doing a sum, do the opposite. We are doing the difference, which is subtracting. What is the opposite of subtracting? Well, it's adding. And that's all. This is, right here, what goes in here is this value times this value. So 2 times x. 2 times x plus, this plus will remain the same whether you're doing sum or difference of cubes. This plus always remains. Plus this last term squared. Okay, so we got a 2, so we're just going to square that. And we are left with x minus 2. We just simplify and get x squared plus 2 times x, or 2x, plus 2 squared is 4. And that's it. You just factored this little thing into a more known thing going on here. But that's all there is to it. And let's do another one. What if I give you x cubed plus 27? Okay, like I said, what are you doing? Sum or difference? Well, we are adding this time, so we are doing sum. Okay? So no matter what, you have to take the square root, the cube root of each term. So the cube root, what do we get? Well, like I said, this and this cancel, and you're left with an x plus, just carry that plus, cube root of 27 is a 3. You got your first factor. Now the long part. Remember, take the first value, square it. This integer is the opposite of what you are doing. We're doing the sum. What is the opposite of adding? Sum. It's subtracting. Subtracting sign. I'm sorry, that's how I remember it. And then this value is this guy multiplied by this guy. So 3 times x is 3x. Plus always remains. This last part, the second part of your smaller bracket piece, squared. So plus 3 squared, or 9, right? 3 squared is 9. And you are done. That's all. This is absolutely correct and in complete factored form. Alright? Now what do I want to say? Okay. Next example. Yes. Sorry. Okay, let's do 27y cubed minus 1000. Let's do this. Okay. Again, sum or difference. We're subtracting, that means we're doing difference. Let's take the cube root of each side. The cube root of 27 is a 3, right? You take the cube root of each piece since you have two things here. The cube root of y cubed, these guys cancel, right? So you're left with a y. Minus the cube root of 1000 is 10. Okay? Great. And don't be intimidated by this. This is perfectly correct. We just have different things going on. So, let's do our big brackets. So like I said, take the first piece in your smaller bracket and square it. So 3y. Remember to square the whole thing, not just the y, not just the 3. What do we put here? Plus or minus? Well, we are doing the difference of squares, which is subtraction. Opposite of that is addition. So you're adding. Alright? You are going to add this value times this value. Okay? So 3y times 10. Plus, always a plus, this guy squared. Alright, so if we just simplify this, we get, oops, see, I made that mistake. You have to distribute the 2 to each piece. 3 squared is a 9. Y squared plus 3y times 10, well, that's 30y. Right? Plus 10 squared, which is 100. And there's your answer. You are done. That's all there is to it. It's not difficult? I don't think so. I mean, it all depends. Oh gosh. It all depends on how you want to think about it, how you make it easier for yourself. Try to find these little tricks that kind of lead you easy or closer to the answer. Okay, I'm gonna do one more example. This one's gonna be a little different. So we're gonna have 3y minus 24y to the 4th. Okay? Now you might be thinking, okay, sorry, apologize. First of all, what is this 4 going on? We are doing cubes, cubics, right? Well, I want you to notice something. We have a y in each term, right? Why don't we factor? And what I recommend you do is factor this 3 as well. In fact, factor a negative 3. So you get a positive 24. And you'll see why. It'll make more sense. So what I'm going to do is factor a negative 3y. Because when we take one y out of here, we'll get a y cubed. And that's what we want because we are working with cubic functions. So if we factor, my thing is not working right. Okay. If we factor, well, we get 3 divided by negative 3, that's negative 1, right? And negative 24 divided by negative 3, well, it's going to be plus 8. Y to the 4th divided by y, that's y cubed. And I'm just going to rewrite this differently, so I'm going to switch them around. So I'm going to write the 8y first, minus 1. I just want it to look like that. Okay? And now, if you just simply ignore this negative 3y, we have a cubic factoring problem here. So, what is this? The sum or difference? I'm going to do this one quickly because my battery is dying. Well, it's the difference, correct? You're subtracting. So let's just bring in that negative 3y with you. Okay, take the cube root of each side. So the cube root of 8 is a 2. The cube root of y, well, these guys cancel, and you're left with a 2y. Minus, well, this is just a 1, right? Okay? What is this big bracket? Well, take this first term, square it. Are you adding or subtracting? Well, difference, we're working with difference. Difference is subtracting, the opposite of that is adding. So we add. We are adding this term times this term. 1 times 2, well, that's 2y. Right? Plus, always a plus, this guy is squared. 1 squared is just a 1. So if we just simplify, we get, distribute that, 2 squared is a 4y squared plus 2y plus 1. And that's how you do that, okay? I hope you, enjoyed this video and fairly understood what I was trying to explain. But just practice and you will get the hang of it. I think that's the best way to learn anything in math, in life, in any given problems. And yeah, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks a lot.